I'm Lorraine Sommerfeld, and this is the Lemonade Car Show. Tonight we're discussing the rules of the road, and as always we'll be answering all of your car-related questions. Lemonade is brought to you by OMVIC, that's Ontario's vehicle sales regulator, and we're produced by the Automobile Protection Association. The APA fights for you, the consumer, and provides information and news on all parts of the industry. Visit our website at apa.ca or reach us by phone at 416-204-1444. Joining me today is Constable Clint Stibbe from Toronto Police Service, and John Raymond. He's an industry consultant and APA advisor. Later we'll be joined by Eli Melnick. He's the owner of Start Auto. We'll be taking your calls all evening at 800-968-7836. Welcome back to the show, Clint. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Last week we had Freeman Young, and he gave away a free Crown rust proofing. Are you going to give away a free speeding ticket?
Absolutely. I gave a couple on the way in today. So.
Did you? I believe it. Well, somebody asked me, what's he really like? I go, you break the law, he gives you a ticket. I go, he's hard-assed.
Quite honestly, yes. Yes. Unfortunately, I've written many a ticket in my career so far.
So you're the guy.
Yeah, I'm not the guy you want to get stopped by.
No.
But you were generous to give a ticket, if we want to give one out.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought. Everyone that comes on the show from now on has to give something away, so what else would you
Absolutely.
So
give
Clint,
away?
I have a question to ask you, because many people call the APA asking all sorts of different questions, and one of them is, well, I have a problem, I got stopped for speeding or turning or whatever. Where do I find out what my rights are, or how many points it is, or...
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. So when you get a ticket at the roadside, officers generally tell you what the consequences of the ticket are. But on the back of the ticket, it explains what your options in the court process are. At the same time, you can Google or research the ticket or the process in Ontario, which would include you getting representation. You could settle it on your own. You can take it to court and have a trial. There's any number of different venues that you could, or routes that you can take in order to challenge a ticket. The truth is that the officers aren't there giving a ticket just because they want to. They're giving a ticket because they've observed some sort of infraction.
Except you like it.
Okay, yes, I'll admit it. I do like giving tickets.
Is there a web address that they could go to? I guess that's what I'm driving at.
On the back of the tickets, there will be a web address associated with the Toronto courts, and you'll be able to go there for further information. There's also phone numbers on the back as well that you can call in order to get assistance. Depending on where you live, some of it can be done over the phone. In other cases, you actually have to come in. And
you can look up the number on the Highway Traffic Act and see exactly what that thing is that you've been charged with.
Oh, absolutely.
And some of them are really bizarre and archaic,
yes,
with horses and lanterns and...
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. There was a question a couple of years ago regarding a councillor that came downtown with a horse and carriage. The question was that she was maybe breaking a law. The reality was all she needed was the slow-moving vehicle sign on the back of the wagon, which she did have, and she was allowed to be on the city streets.
You only have to have one rear light working.
One, yeah, it'd be similar to like a motorcycle. One red light to rear. You have to have the license plate illuminated as well, and you have to be able to signal. Now, the signal can be done by a hand gesture or by signal lights at the back of the vehicle.
Because I know when you see on movies where a cop whacks out a rear, an officer or a thug, whichever, hits out the rear light and then charges them with it. That, as long as you got one working, that wouldn't be a thing, right?
Exactly. The only time that we look at that type of issue with a car where there's broken windshields, mechanically it's unfit, is under the Highway Traffic Act of operating an unsafe vehicle. So that would include looking at the suspension of the car, the tires, the horn, the wipers, the seat belts, the parking brake, the lenses, any number of different things.
What about the headlights? We've been having this issue for the last two shows about how expensive LED bulbs are, like up to like $1,400 for a bulb. If you've got one out, how long can you cruise around with one headlight?
Well, actually, technically, there's kind of a trick with that. If the one headlight is burned out and you have the other, you're not going to get necessarily a ticket for not having any headlights or a malfunction headlight, because at the same time you have the parking lights, which also offer light to the front, and they have to be visible for a distance of up to 150 meters. The question, or 150 feet, it isn't that whether you can see or not, it's the certain amount of lumens that need to be produced. Officers don't have the equipment at the roadside to measure the output of those headlights. But if you do have a headlight, it should be fixed because it is part of the safety equipment of the car, but you're not certifying the car at the roadside. You're just You're driving it and you've got a burned out headlight. You get it fixed just because it is a maintenance item.
But would you get a warning on that?
In most cases you would. I wouldn't see you getting a ticket necessarily for one burned out headlight. And again, the arguments in the courts is, well, did you have parking lights on the vehicle? Yes, you did. Did you have fog lights? Well, now those all play into what lighting you have on the front of the car.
Illumination.
So it really depends on
interesting.
what the circumstances are.
And is that warning tied to a time limit, like 24 hours or 48 hours?
No. Under with the Toronto Police Service, the way we've got our system, if we give you a warning, you'll get a written warning for the offense, and that now is kept on our system, so that if we happen to stop you, let's say the next day, and the same thing is there, we can see, well, listen, you were warned yesterday about this.
So liar, liar, pants on fire, as you said, you're getting it fixed.
Exactly. And the expectation is most people don't want to drive around a vehicle that's in poor shape. And these days, with the vehicles now, you're seeing not as many of the old beaters, if you will, on the road. It's actually very few and far between now. Going back 10 years, they were all over the road. But it's gotten to a point now with the emission testing procedures that have been brought in, and now even with the new safety standards, you could even fail for a serpentine belt that is cracked, where before they could have cared less. Yeah. So equipment that's on a vehicle now must function. That includes the airbags, the electronic parking brakes, traction controls, ABS. All these must work, where under the previous, I think it was prior to June 1st or July 1st, I'm not sure offhand, but where I think it was July 1st, when previously the ABS and the traction control didn't have to function.
The car didn't have to work.
Sorry?
The car didn't even have to work.
Exactly. You didn't need an engine or transmission. You could still pass it, as long as you had
There's
an
more
intact
vigilance with window tilting too, I believe, now.
Yeah, well, anybody that operates a motor vehicle with tinted windows has to understand that if the view is substantially obscured to the inside from either the driver or the passenger sides, that they can face a charge. Well, what's interesting is, on a bright sunny day, you can see more inside the vehicle. Yeah. At night, and the tint is there, now it's substantially obscuring the view to the interior. So now you can get a ticket for the color coding obstructing the interior of the motor vehicle. So that being said, if you move to the rear passenger compartments, then for there you could have privacy tint. You couldn't even see out. Wouldn't matter.
People are doing all kinds of things back there. I would want to be a cop, man. Rap. No, I don't think so.
You know what? I find it so distracting when I get into a car that's been tinted, especially looking out a rear view mirror at night.
Yeah, you can't see anything.
You know what? People, you'll have two camps, one that disagrees with it, one that thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. I personally don't like them. Would I target somebody for it? No. If we identify that there's an issue with the tint on the window, it's got to be dealt with. But the reality is, what I've seen from my experience, a wet morning, dark morning with tinted windows is just a recipe for disaster. Yeah. Because you can barely see without a tint. Once you have the tint in, it's like you're staring into the black abyss.
And let me tie this into daytime running lights, because this has got to be one of the biggest pet peeves that comes into my mail. It's huge. I could write about this every week and nobody would mind if I ranted about it. So many people don't have their headlight stock set to auto, and auto is available on most cars now.
Yes.
And we've got across every brand, every model, every lineup. They don't put on their full lighting system. The back is black.
But what you'll notice is inside the dash gauges are lit up.
Right.
So they're not recognizing that the vehicle doesn't have the lights on.
Old school, our old Rambler, you got in, it didn't light up if your headlights weren't on. But now you're driving around, especially this time of year, and the clocks are going back shortly. The back is dark. So if you're all tinted as well, and someone's only got their daytime running lights on, it's even harder to see them if they're behind you. But how come you're not ticketing these people who don't have their headlights on and they're dark in the back? That's very dangerous. You like giving tickets. Why don't you give tickets for that?
You know what? The issue that somebody's forgotten to turn the headlights isn't so much the offense, it's if they don't work. It's just like if the brake lights were burned out. It's quite often now you see the high mount light is the only one working on a car. Yeah. So it would be nothing for me to stop, I can't tell you, half a dozen cars a day. They've met the criteria of having at least one light that works, but the reality is it's all the way up here, everybody's looking for the lights down here.
Yeah.
So could it cause a collision? Absolutely. So we try and educate the public where possible, which is where we do identify issues with the vehicles that aren't necessarily chargeable, or they are chargeable, but we won't necessarily lay the charge. It's more an education.
We need a sign
so dangerous.
To help people. We can write about it. My colleagues that we write about it. It's like, please, and people will say if people are too stupid to do that, they shouldn't be driving.
Well, like, keep in mind, you also have the reflectors built into the taillights as well. So as vehicles approach with the headlights on, the reflectors are supposed to come by.
It's crap.
But you know what?
But
every night
that being said,
I'll drive home from here tonight, and I'll count 10 between here and Burlington. It will be, and it's like, there's no sign I can give them. that's polite, that says your lights are out. You can't flash lights at somebody. They don't know what that means.
Well, you can turn them on and off.
Yeah, then you'll give me a ticket for that. We'll go to court over it. I've heard about that too. So,
You'll never win, but I'm just saying.
I just wish the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OMVIC, Ontario's motor vehicle sales regulator, returns after this short break. When we come back, we'll be taking your calls 800-968-7836.